Let's also start the morning with some latest labor data points that have just dropped. ADP employment, that coming out this morning. Private employers, they added 103,000 jobs in November, according to data from ADP. The robust labor market of 2023 finally cooling as we head into the winter, a sign that the Fed's efforts to slow the economy are taking hold. But will that slowdown come at the cost of consumer spending? Here to answer that question for us, we've got Josh Schaefer joining us here at the table. Josh, you've had some time to really dig into these numbers this morning.
Yeah, Brett, I mean, at a high level, it's the kind of ADP report you wanted to see based on what we saw from JOLTS data yesterday. Of course, that JOLTS data from October, the ADP data from November. But we're looking for evidence of a soft landing, right? Some signs of labor market cooling, maybe wages coming down, but wages still being higher than inflation. This checks all of those boxes. So in theory, it's sort of, okay, on to the next one when you think about it that way. One thing, though, that I think is interesting to highlight here, and ADP does a great job of this because of their data with payrolls, is the difference between job changers and job stayers and how much money they're making. The gap is really closing. Remember in the pandemic, there was a time where you might have been talking to a friend at a bar and they're telling you they're leaving their job and they're going and getting a 16%, 17% raise. Yeah. That's down to 8% now. And for a job stay,
good, though.
It's good, but for job stayers, it's 5.6%. So that's the lowest margin we've had between someone that leaves their job and someone that stays at their job, their annual increase. That's the lowest margin we've seen in 3 years. So sort of normalizing in some way, and it shows that the labor market is normalizing because people don't just want to quit, right? We've seen that in the quits rate. The quits rate stayed flat now for 4 straight months in that JOLTS data. That's because people are feeling a little bit less confident that, okay, if I quit my job, there's 3 different jobs that want to go hire me. That's not really the narrative right now in the labor market, and I think it was a year ago.
And it will be interesting to see if there is any correlation to the jobs report on Friday. I mean, the expectation obviously is for less than 200,000 jobs, but not at this number that we're seeing from ADP. And over the years, the correlation, they haven't been as correlated as they used to be, although I think the last report was more similar, right? And previously, this used to be the report you would look to for kind of clues onto what the government's report's going to be, the granddaddy report on Friday. It's interesting to see the services industry accounting for, a big portion of the gains.
All of the gains.
And so it's not surprising, especially at this time of year, for that sector. But your points about wages and wage inflation cooling, and that's something that the Fed has talked about, and saying, though, also that it's not the biggest issue when it comes to inflation, but you wonder if this, especially this report coming up, is that, once again, that Goldilocks jobs report that the Fed would be looking for, not too hot, not too cool labor market.
And the other thing interesting out of this report that I wanted to highlight too is the quote from Neil Richardson, the chief economist, saying that restaurants and hotels were the biggest job creators during the post-pandemic recovery, but that boost is behind us. And the return to trend in leisure and hospitality suggests the economy as a whole will see more moderate hiring and wage growth in 2024. So again, another post-pandemic trend. Remember when every restaurant, every hotel needed workers, right? We're seeing that normalizing. So then as you start to see these numbers normalize, something to think about, right? It's not when you go out to eat. I think anecdotally this is playing a role, right? When you go out to eat, they're finally fully staffed, and you feel a little bit better about sort of how the restaurant is able to operate. There was a time where you felt really bad.
You mean you didn't enjoy just ordering through the Toast app when you go into an in-store or in-premise dining experience?
Oh, see, I felt bad for the workers running around.